In the heart of a bustling city park, where the autumn leaves danced like forgotten dreams under a crisp blue sky, young Ethan Hawthorne lay helpless in the mud. The 22-year-old son of tech mogul Alexander Hawthorne, whose fortune could buy empires, had tipped from his wheelchair during a rare solo outing. Paralyzed from the waist down since a childhood accident, Ethan had always been shielded by bodyguards and luxury. But today, craving independence, he'd ventured alone. Now his chair overturned, wheels spinning futilely. He called out weakly as joggers, families, and executives streamed by, their eyes averting as if his plight was an inconvenient stain on their perfect day. The park was alive with the rhythm of urban life, children laughing on swings, couples strolling hand in hand, vendors hawking hot pretzels, yet no one stopped. A businessman in a tailored suit glanced down, his phone pressed to his ear, muttering about stock prices before stepping wider to avoid the mud splatter. A group of teenagers, earbuds in, snickered and snapped photos from afar, whispering about the rich kid's karma. Even a kindly-looking elderly woman, pushing a stroller, paused briefly, her face twisting in pity, but she shook her head and hurried on, perhaps thinking, his father can afford a helicopter rescue. Ethan felt the cold seep through his clothes, but worse was the chill of invisibility. He, who had grown up in mansions with servants at his beck and call, now realized wealth was no shield against indifference. Tears mixed with the grime on his face as he wondered if this was his life. A spectacle ignored, a burden too messy for strangers to touch. As minutes stretched into an eternity, Ethan's mind raced back to his insulated world. His father, Alexander, had built an empire from nothing, preaching self-reliance and success above all. "The world doesn't owe you anything," he'd say, even as he donated millions to charities from afar, never getting his hands dirty. Ethan had internalized that, hiding his vulnerabilities behind gadgets and isolation. But here, stuck and exposed, a profound realization hit him. True strength wasn't in fortunes or fortitude alone, but in the fragile threads of human connection he had never woven. He screamed inwardly at the passers-by. Didn't they see him as one of them? Or was he just a headline waiting to happen? "Millionaire's heir humiliated in park." Then, amid the blur of ignoring faces, a small figure approached. She couldn't have been more than 8, with pigtails bouncing like springs and a pink raincoat too big for her tiny frame. Lily, as he would later learn her name, was there with her single mother, who sat on a distant bench engrossed in a book. The girl had been collecting fallen leaves for a school project when she spotted Ethan. Unlike the adults, she didn't hesitate. Her wide eyes filled with innocent concern, she toddled over, mud squelching under her boots. "Mister, are you okay? You look stuck," she said, her voice a melody of unfiltered kindness. Ethan blinked in surprise, his voice cracking. I am. Can you get help?" But Lily shook her head. "Mommy says I shouldn't talk to strangers, but you need a friend right now." She glanced around at the indifferent crowd, her brow furrowing like a tiny philosopher. Then, with the determination only a child possesses, she dropped her leaf collection and knelt in the mud, her coat staining instantly. "I'll push your chair up." "We can do it together," Ethan protested weakly. It was impossible. She was too small, but her spirit ignited something in him. As she heaved with all her might, grunting comically, a jogger finally noticed, then another. Whispers turned to action. A man set down his coffee to right the wheelchair. A woman called for paramedics. But it was Lily's hands, muddy, persistent, that started it all. In that moment, as the crowd finally mobilized, Ethan experienced an unexpected turn. Not just rescue, but rebirth. He saw in Lily's eyes the purity of selflessness, untainted by judgments of wealth or weakness. She didn't know he was a millionaire's son. To her, he was just a person in need. As helpers lifted him back into his chair, Ethan reached out, his hand trembling, and squeezed hers. "Why did you help me when no one else did?" he whispered. Lily shrugged, wiping mud from her cheek. "Because if I was stuck, I'd want someone to be nice. Mommy says kindness is like sunshine, it makes everything better." Her words pierced him, a profound realization dawning. In a world obsessed with status and success, the truest power lay in the quiet acts of humanity that cost nothing but gave everything. The emotional climax unfolded as Ethan's father arrived in a flurry of limousines and security, his face pale with worry. Alexander had been in a board meeting when the call came, but seeing his son safe and transformed brought him to his knees in the mud. For the first time, the mogul hugged Ethan publicly, tears streaming. "I thought money could protect you from everything," he admitted. But Ethan, glancing at Lily, who beamed proudly as her mother scooped her up, replied, "It can't, Dad, but people can." In that shared vulnerability, father and son connected deeply, vowing to use their privilege not as a barrier, but as a bridge. Word spread quickly, first through park whispers, then social media, turning the incident into a viral story of hope. Ethan, inspired, founded a foundation for accessibility in public spaces, partnering with community programs. Lily became an unwitting hero, her family invited to galas where she charmed everyone with her simple wisdom. But the real change was quieter. Strangers began pausing more, helping without hesitation, reminded that beneath titles and trials, we're all human. In the end, Ethan's ordeal taught a universal truth. Kindness isn't reserved for the deserving or the dramatic. It's the everyday spark that ignites humanity's best. In a divided world, where headlines scream division, one little girl's act proved that selflessness can bridge any gap, leaving us all a bit more hopeful. For in helping others, we often save ourselves, proving that the power of compassion is the greatest fortune of all.